The massive alien ship approached Earth's orbital station Luna 7 like a silver needle threading through space. Its surface gleamed with an almost mirror-like perfection, reflecting the distant stars as it moved with surprising grace for something so large. Captain Ji-won Kim stood at the observation deck, watching the vessels approach with a mixture of excitement and nervousness that he tried hard to hide from his crew. "Sir, they're requesting permission to dock," announced Lieutenant Daeho from the communications console. His voice carried the same tension that everyone felt. This was it, humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Kim straightened his uniform one final time and walked toward the docking bay. "Grant them permission and remind everyone to follow protocol. We represent all of humanity today." The docking procedure was flawless, almost suspiciously so. The alien ship connected to Luna 7's docking port with the kind of precision that suggested they had done this many times before. Kim wondered briefly how many other species they had visited, but pushed the thought aside as the airlocks cycled open. The beings that emerged were unlike anything humans had imagined, yet strangely familiar. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies stretched and elegant like living sculptures. Their skin was pale blue, almost translucent, and their large dark eyes seemed to hold depths of ancient wisdom. They moved with fluid grace, as if gravity affected them differently. "Welcome to human space," Kim said, his voice carrying through the translation device that had been hastily developed based on their earlier communications. "I am Captain Ji-won Kim of the Earth Defense Initiative." The lead alien stepped forward and performed what could only be described as a bow, though it was more elaborate than any human gesture. "We are deeply honored by your welcome," the being said in a voice that sounded like wind through distant trees. "I am Veltar Speaker. For the Zephyrian Exploration Council, become as humble students seeking to learn from your remarkable species." Dr. Huna Park, who had been selected as the mission's primary xenobiologist, watched the interaction with scientific fascination. She had studied every piece of available data about these visitors, but seeing them in person was entirely different. Something about their behavior seemed almost too perfect, like actors playing roles they had rehearsed many times. "We have traveled far to reach your world," Veltar continued, his large eyes seeming to take in every detail of the human delegation. "Our people are explorers and scholars. We have heard whispers of human creativity and ingenuity across the stars, and we wish to learn from you." The compliment seemed genuine, but Dr. Park noticed how carefully chosen the words were. The aliens spoke of hearing about humans across the stars, which suggested they had contact with other species, yet they presented themselves as simple explorers. She filed this observation away for later consideration. "What exactly do you wish to learn?" Kim asked, gesturing for the delegation to follow him to the conference room that had been prepared for this historic meeting. "Everything," Veltar replied with what might have been a smile. "Your art, your science, your philosophy, the way you organize your societies, the way you solve problems, the way you dream of the future. We are particularly interested in your rapid technological development." As they walked through the station's corridors, the alien delegation observed everything with apparent fascination. They asked polite questions about the station's construction, the purpose of various systems, and the daily life of the crew. Their curiosity seemed genuine, almost childlike in its enthusiasm. "We would be honored to establish small research outposts on your moon," Veltar said, once they had settled in the conference room. "Our scientists could study human culture from a respectful distance, learning your ways without causing any interference or disruption to your daily lives." The request was reasonable, even generous. The aliens were offering to share some of their advanced technology in exchange for the opportunity to observe human civilization. They showed blueprints for research stations that appeared to be primarily scientific in nature. With observation equipment and communication arrays, Kim found himself nodding in agreement, though something in the back of his mind whispered caution. The aliens seemed almost too accommodating, too perfect in their diplomatic approach. But perhaps that was simply the result of their advanced civilization and experience with first contact situations. "We would also like to invite a small number of human observers to visit our research stations," Veltar added. "Cultural exchange benefits both species." We can share our knowledge of the stars while learning from your unique perspectives. Dr. Park leaned forward slightly. What kind of technology are you willing to share? Medical advances, agricultural improvements, clean energy solutions, Veltar replied smoothly. Technologies that could benefit your entire species without disrupting your natural development. Formal negotiations began in earnest, with both sides discussing terms, timelines, and protocols. The aliens were patient and understanding, accepting every human concern and limitation with grace. They seemed genuinely interested in establishing a long-term partnership based on mutual respect and benefit. As the hours passed, Kim felt his initial nervousness fading. These beings appeared to be everything they claimed, peaceful explorers, seeking knowledge and friendship. Yet Dr. Park's subtle glances and carefully neutral expressions suggested she shared his lingering doubts. Neither side revealed their true intentions as the historic first meeting drew to a close. The game of deception had begun. Though neither species fully understood the stakes yet, the morning sun cast long shadows across the lunar surface as Dr. Huna Park adjusted her monitoring equipment in the observation lab on Luna 7. 3 months had passed since the Zephyrians established their research stations on the moon. Something was bothering her. She had been watching their activities closely, and the numbers were not adding up. Minho, come look. At this, she called to her colleague, who was reviewing data from the previous night's observations. Dr. Minho Lee walked over, his coffee still steaming in the low-gravity environment. What is it now? He asked, though he had learned to take Huna's concerns seriously. She had an eye for details that others missed. Huna pointed to her computer screen, which displayed a series of colorful graphs and readings. Look at these. Energy signatures from their scanning equipment. Now they told us these were basic observation tools, right? Simple devices for studying human behavior and culture? Minho nodded, leaning closer to examine the data. That's what Veltar said. Nothing more advanced than what we might use to study animal behavior. Then explain this, Huna said, highlighting specific peaks in the energy readings. Scanners are using quantum entanglement protocols. That's technology we're just beginning to understand in our most advanced laboratories. There's nothing basic about it. The implications were troubling. Quantum entanglement was one of the most sophisticated technologies humans had encountered, allowing for instantaneous communication across vast distances. If the Zephyrians were using such advanced systems for simple cultural observation, what else were they hiding? Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Seoul, Intelligence Officer Sora Choi sat in a windowless room filled with monitors and communication equipment. Her job was to monitor all alien communications, both the public broadcasts and any private transmissions she could intercept. What she had discovered over the past few weeks was deeply concerning. The Zephyrians broadcast daily updates to Earth, sharing their observations about human culture and expressing their continued amazement at human creativity and adaptability. They spoke of art, music, and literature. They praised human engineering and scientific achievement. These public messages were warm, friendly, and exactly what Earth's population wanted to hear. But Sora had been tracking the positioning and scanning patterns of the lunar research stations, and the picture they painted was very different from the peaceful cultural study the aliens claimed to be conducting. "Sir, you need to see this," Sora said to her supervisor, Commander Taiwu Park. As he entered the monitoring station for his daily briefing, she pulled up a three-dimensional map of Earth, with the lunar research stations marked as bright dots. On the moon's surface, lines extended from each station, showing their scanning coverage areas. The Zephyrians positioned their stations to provide complete surveillance coverage of our major military installations, Sora explained, highlighting the overlapping scan zones. Look here. They can monitor every defense grid, every manufacturing facility, every strategic resource center on the planet. Commander Park studied the map with growing alarm. This isn't random placement for cultural observation. It's systematic intelligence gathering. It gets worse, Sora continued, switching to another display. I've been analyzing their scanning patterns, not just watching our cities and cultural centers. They're mapping our infrastructure, our supply chains, our communication networks. They're creating a complete picture of how human civilization operates. The aliens continued their public broadcasts, sharing small technological gifts with humanity. They provided improvements to water purification systems that could help solve droughts in Africa. They offered agricultural techniques that could increase crop yields in developing nations. They shared medical knowledge that could help treat diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. On the surface, these appeared to be generous gifts from advanced neighbors who wanted to help humanity grow and prosper. The global media praised the aliens' generosity. Public opinion remained overwhelmingly positive about the ongoing cultural exchange. But Masora's team had managed to intercept fragments of encrypted communications between the lunar stations and what appeared to be ships in the outer solar system. The messages were heavily coded, but certain phrases appeared repeatedly. Target assessment, integration protocols, and resistance capacity evaluation. They're not studying our culture, Sora reported during a classified briefing with Earth's security leaders. They're evaluating our defenses. Every gift they've given us, every friendly gesture, every cultural exchange, it's all part of gathering intelligence about our capabilities. Dr. Huna Park had reached similar conclusions from her scientific observations. The advanced technology the aliens were using suggested they were far more sophisticated than they pretended to be. If they possessed quantum entanglement communication systems, what other technologies were they hiding? We're being studied like specimens, she told Minho during one of their late-night research sessions. They're not interested in our art or our music or our philosophy. They're mapping our strengths and weaknesses. The pattern was becoming clear to both the scientists and the intelligence officers. The Zephorians had approached Earth with what appeared to be genuine curiosity and peaceful intentions. They had established research stations for what seemed like legitimate scientific purposes. They had shared technology and knowledge in what looked like generous cultural exchange, but beneath the surface, something much more sinister was taking place. The aliens were conducting a comprehensive evaluation of human civilization, mapping its vulnerabilities and assessing its capacity for resistance. Earth was being examined not as a potential partner in galactic civilization, but as a potential target for conquest. The question now was what to do with this knowledge, whether humanity was already too late to respond effectively to the threat that was slowly revealing itself. The computer screen flickered as a communications specialist. Junho Nam entered the final sequence of code. He had been working for weeks to break through the Zephorians' encrypted messages, staying up late into the night while his colleagues slept. The alien encryption was unlike anything humans had encountered before, but Junho had a gift for finding patterns where others saw only chaos. Come on, he whispered to himself, his fingers flying across the keyboard. It's just a little more. Suddenly, the screen filled with text. Not the meaningless symbols that had frustrated him for so long, but actual words that he could read and understand. Junho's eyes widened as he began to scan the decoded messages. What he saw made his blood run cold. Oh no, he breathed, reaching for his emergency communicator. This changes everything. Within an hour, Earth's Security Council had assembled. In the underground command center beneath Geneva, the room was filled with tension as military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officers gathered around the central table. Captain Jiwon Kim stood at the head of the room, his face grim as he waited for Junho to present his findings. They're not explorers, Junho announced, his voice cutting through the silence. They're advanced scouts for something called the hegemony. Everything we've seen, everything they've told us, it's all been a lie. The room erupted in concerned murmurs, but Captain Kim raised his hand for silence. Show us what you found. Junho activated the main display, and the decoded alien messages appeared on the wall screen. The text was chilling in its clinical precision. The Zephorians had been reporting back to their superiors about human defensive capabilities, population centers, and resource distribution. They described Earth as target designation 7 Alpha and humanity as indigenous population requiring integration. This is a full-scale intelligence operation, Junho continued. They've been gathering information about our entire civilization. Every weakness, every strength, every potential point of resistance. Dr. Huna Park leaned forward. Studying the messages. Look at this section here. They're not just studying US. They're part of something much larger. The hegemony appears to be a galactic empire that specializes in conquest through infiltration rather than direct military action. Intelligence Officer Sora Choi nodded grimly. It explains everything we've been seeing. The scanning patterns, the strategic positioning of their stations, the way they've been mapping our infrastructure. They're not preparing for cultural exchange, they're preparing for invasion. Captain Kim felt his stomach drop as he read through more of the decoded files. The messages detailed a method of conquest that was both brilliant and terrifying. Rather than attacking worlds directly, the hegemony would send advanced teams disguised as peaceful explorers. These teams would study their targets, identify weaknesses, slowly integrate their own technology into the local infrastructure. There, planning to stage an accident, Kim read aloud from one of the intercepted messages. A malfunction at one of the lunar stations that will require immediate intervention from their rescue fleet. Once that fleet enters our system, they'll establish a permanent military presence. The implications were staggering. The Zephyrians had been playing a long game from the very beginning. Every friendly gesture, every gift of technology, every expression of peaceful intent had been part of a carefully planned operation to lower humanity's guard and prepare for conquest. Dr. Huna. Park made an even more disturbing discovery as she continued reading through the files. Earth isn't their first target, she said quietly. Look at these references: Kepler 44 to b, Proxima Centauri b, dozens of other worlds. They've done this before, many times. The files contain detailed reports from previous conquest operations. World after world had fallen to the same patient, methodical approach. The hegemony would arrive as friends, offer gifts and knowledge, study their targets thoroughly, and then strike when resistance was no longer possible. They've perfected this strategy across an entire galaxy, Dr. Park continued. No. Exactly how to appear harmless while gathering the information they need to ensure victory. Sora Choi pointed to another section of the decoded messages. Look at this. They've been feeding us technological breadcrumbs just enough to make us dependent on their systems, to integrate their technology into our infrastructure. When the time comes, they'll be able to control everything we've built with their help. Water purification systems, the agricultural improvements, the medical advances, all of it had been designed to make humanity dependent on Zephyrian technology. When the invasion began, the aliens would be able to shut down critical systems that Earth's population had come to rely on. The staged accident is scheduled for next week, Captain Kim announced, his voice heavy with the weight of the discovery. According to these messages, their rescue fleet is already en route, hidden in the outer system and waiting for the signal. The room fell silent as the full scope of the deception became clear. For months, humanity had been celebrating its first contact with an alien civilization. They had welcomed the Zephyrians as friends and partners in exploring the galaxy. They had shared their culture, their knowledge, and their trust. But it had all been a lie. Aliens had been preparing for conquest from the moment they arrived. They had studied humanity like insects in a laboratory, identifying exactly how to destroy human civilization with minimal effort and maximum efficiency. However, as the council members absorbed this shocking revelation, none of them yet realized that the Zephyrians had made one crucial mistake in their calculations. They had underestimated humanity's own capacity for deception and the lengths to which humans would go to protect their world. The meeting room on Luna 7 looked exactly the same as it had during countless previous exchanges. Zephyrians. Veltar and his delegation sat across from the human scientists, expecting another routine discussion about cultural observations and technological sharing. The aliens had grown comfortable with these meetings, viewing them as harmless conversations with their unsuspecting targets. Dr. Minho Lee entered the room with his usual calm demeanor, carrying a tablet and wearing the same friendly expression he had maintained for months. But today would be different. Today the game would finally end. "Good morning, Veltar," Dr. Lee said, taking his seat. "I hope you're prepared for an interesting discussion today." The alien leader nodded graciously. "Of course, Dr. Lee. We are. Always eager to learn more about human scientific progress." Dr. Lee smiled, but there was something different in his expression now. Something that made Veltar feel slightly uncomfortable, though he couldn't quite understand why. Actually, today I thought we might discuss your scientific progress instead, Dr. Lee said, activating his tablet. We've been studying your technology since the day you arrived. Every scanner, every communication device, every supposedly simple tool you've shared with us. Veltar's large dark eyes widened slightly. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Dr. Lee. I think you do, Dr. Lee replied calmly. Your quantum encryption, for example, very sophisticated. It's much more advanced than the simple observation tools you claimed to be using. The other Zephyrians, and the room began to shift uncomfortably. Something was wrong. The human scientist was speaking with the confidence of someone who knew far more than he should. We reverse-engineered your quantum encryption 3 weeks ago, Dr. Lee continued, his voice remaining steady and conversational. We've been reading your communications, tracking your fleet movements, and preparing our response. The room's atmosphere changed completely. The friendly pretense that had characterized months of meetings evaporated in an instant. Expression shifted from confusion to alarm as he realized what the human was telling him. That's impossible, Veltar said, his voice losing its usual calm tone. Our encryption is far beyond human technological capabilities. The door to the meeting room opened, and General Yunjihan entered. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a presence that commanded immediate attention. Zephyrians had never seen her before, which was itself telling. Your lunar outposts weren't just observing us, General Han said without preamble. They were being observed. Every scan you made of our defenses was recorded. Every weakness you identified was reinforced. Veltar stood abruptly, his tall frame making him tower over the humans. What are you talking about? Who are you? The commander of Earth's hidden defense network, General Han replied. The one your intelligence gathering missed completely. The truth began to emerge in devastating detail. While the Zephyrians had been carefully mapping Earth's obvious military installations, they had completely missed the planet's true defensive capabilities. The humans had learned from their own history of warfare and espionage. Most critical facilities were hidden deep underground or disguised as civilian structures. The most advanced weapons were kept in locations that alien sensors couldn't detect. Dr. Huna Park entered the room, joining the confrontation. You saw what we wanted you to see, she explained to the stunned aliens. Our real technology development has been taking place in locations your sensors couldn't detect. We've been building defenses specifically designed to counter your methods. The Zephyrians exchanged alarmed glances. Their perfect plan was crumbling before their eyes. They had been so confident in their ability to deceive and manipulate humans that they had never considered the possibility that humans might be deceiving them in return. While you were studying our culture and mapping our obvious defenses, Dr. Park continued, we were studying you. Your behavior patterns, your technology, your methods of conquest. We know about the hegemony. We know about the staged accident. Your planning. We know about the fleet waiting in the outer system. Veltar's composure finally cracked. How could you possibly know about the hegemony? That information is classified at the highest levels. Because we've been reading your mail, Dr. Lee said simply. Every transmission, every report, every strategic discussion. We've known about your true intentions for weeks. The aliens realized with growing horror that while they had been playing innocent, Earth had been playing dead. Prey had been studying the predator, learning its habits, and preparing to turn the tables. Every human weakness the Zephyrians had identified and reported back to their superiors had been deliberately revealed. Every defensive position they had mapped was decoy. Every technological limitation they had observed was carefully staged. Water purification systems you gave us, General Han said. We modified them before installation. The agricultural improvements, we added our own enhancements. The medical advances, we studied them thoroughly before implementing them. You've been helping us prepare for your own invasion. Suddenly, emergency klaxons began sounding throughout the lunar stations. The sharp, piercing alarm cut through the tension in the meeting room. The Zephyrians looked at each other in panic, realizing that their carefully laid plans were about to become their downfall. What's happening? Veltar demanded. General Han checked her communication device. Your rescue fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Right on schedule. The only problem is, we're ready for them. The aliens understood that their greatest deception had been turned against them. Humanity had proven to be far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their massive ships casting long shadows against the distant stars. 67 vessels of various sizes moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the cold light of space. They had traveled across the galaxy to respond to what they believed was a distress call from their advance. Scouts on Earth's moon, Admiral Kyung-soo Park watched their approach from the command center of humanity's primary defense station, hidden deep within the asteroid belt. The facility was completely invisible to alien sensors, its advanced stealth technology developed from months of study in Zephyrian equipment. Around him, dozens of human officers monitored their instruments with quiet efficiency. 67 ships, just as our intelligence predicted, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Gina Cho. Her voice was steady. But everyone in the command center could feel the tension in the air. This was the moment they had been preparing. For since discovering the aliens' true intentions, the hegemony vessels moved with practiced confidence. Their commanders following a protocol they had used successfully on dozens of other worlds. They expected to find a panicked, defenseless planet grateful for their intervention. Their plan was simple: establish a rescue operation to help their stranded scouts. Then gradually increase their presence until they had complete control of the solar system. They're moving into standard invasion formation, Lieutenant Cho observed, tracking the alien ships on her display. They're not even attempting to hide their intentions anymore. Admiral Park nodded grimly. Why would they? As far as they know, we're primitive natives who can't possibly threaten them. Hegemony Admiral sent a transmission to Earth, his voice carrying the false concern that had fooled so many other civilizations. This is Admiral Deckmer of the Hegemony Rescue Fleet. We have received distress signals from our research teams on your moon. We are here to provide assistance. But instead of grateful acceptance, the response that came back was entirely unexpected. This is Captain Ji-won Kim of the Earth Defense Force. The transmission crackled across all frequencies. Your invasion attempt has failed. Your scout teams have been neutralized. Your fleet is surrounded and outgunned, Admiral Deckmer. His response was immediate and filled with disbelief. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated primitive defensive capabilities. You lack the technology to even detect our approach, let alone threaten our fleet. To do what? Captain Kim interrupted, his voice carrying across space with calm confidence. To detect your stealth ships? To crack your encryption? To reverse engineer your weapons? We've been doing all of that for months, while you thought we were helpless. As if responding to some invisible signal, space around the hegemony fleet suddenly filled with human ships. They materialized out of nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating to reveal a force that should not have existed. The vessels were unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Sleek, deadly, and obviously built for war rather than exploration. Admiral Deckmer stared at his tactical display in shock. Where did they come from? Our sensors showed empty space. Tactical officer was equally stunned. Sir, they're using our own stealth technology, but it's been improved somehow. These ships are more advanced than our intelligence reports indicated. The human fleet had been lurking throughout the solar system, hidden in the asteroid belt behind planets and in the cold depths of space. Their exotic matter hulls and quantum drives had been developed from reverse-engineered Zephyrian technology, but enhanced with human innovations that the aliens had never seen before. They've been studying us, Admiral Deckmer realized with growing horror. While we thought we were studying them, they were learning from us. The battle that followed was swift and decisive. A hegemony fleet, designed primarily for intimidation, rather than genuine warfare, found themselves facing opponents who had studied their every tactic and vulnerability. Human ships moved with precision and purpose, their commanders having learned from the galaxy's most successful conquerors and adapted those lessons to their own advantage. The alien formations, which had worked perfectly against other primitive civilizations, crumbled under the coordinated assault of human forces. Ship after ship took damage as human weapons, based on alien technology, but improved with human ingenuity, tore through their defenses. "Retreat," Admiral Deckmer ordered as his flagship shuddered under repeated hits. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace." Surviving hegemony vessels scattered in disorder, their perfect formation destroyed, and their confidence shattered. As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Deckmer sent one final transmission to Earth. "This world will be marked as a threat," he warned. "Others will come. The hegemony does not forget." Captain Kim's response was broadcast across all channels, ensuring every fleeing ship would carry the message back to their empire. "Let them come. Earth will be ready." As the last of the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet remained in position, vigilant and ready. The Zephyrians had played innocent, presenting themselves as peaceful explorers while planning conquest. But Earth had held its own secrets, revealing them only when the time was right. The age of Earth's isolation was over. Humanity had faced its first test as a spacefaring civilization and emerged victorious. The galaxy would never again underestimate the small blue planet and its determined inhabitants. In the end, humanity's greatest strength had not been its weapons or its technology, but its ability to learn, adapt, and turn deception into victory. The species that had once looked up at the stars with wonder was now ready to reach out and claim its place among them.